ever wonder why your sweet, innocent friend is suddenly blushing at her Kindle?
I have read the dirtiest things.
Romantic books that are spice on spice on spice on spice.
Sometimes all you need is a seriously good steamy book.
These books are going to make you sweat in places you didn't know you could sweat.
Or why your girlfriend or wife is nose deep in literature seemingly out of nowhere?
So this when the main character is sold to a high lord across the kingdom, and to assert his authority, he's like, you're gonna have to ride naked all the way to my kingdom.
My words to describe it and to convince you is everybody loves when a sailor comes home.
Boom, 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 sauce, 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 sausage.
I'm here to tell you it's probably because of spicy #BookTok.
And he punctuates each word with a thrust.
Which is basically just a red-hot carnival of lip-biting, taboo fantasies and questionable covers.
It's about 4 brothers, they're all Irish, they're all in the mafia, they take in this one chick who's a hacker and they all have at her.
I read that book purely for the smut.
So strap in, or on, I'm sorry I had to make that joke, it was right there. And we're about to peek under the covers of spicy book talk. I don't know about you guys, but my For You page has been chock full of chili pepper emojis paired with obscure, seemingly innocent book covers and titles that are, spoiler alert, not innocent in the least. In fact, these spicy books that women are losing their undies over might as well require an 18+ verification ID because, my god, there's some smutty stuff going on TikTok. But alas, I have been plagued with the never-ending smutty book reviews, as I'm sure many of you have too. And if you haven't, it's probably for the best, to be honest. But I can't say it didn't pique my curiosity when I started to see all of these book recommendations and book reviews and women just sweating and fanning themselves while holding up books and jumping around in the background and doing just crazy shit just because of a book. I've never got that excited about the book since... So I actually did pick up a few of these recommended books, and now I am educated and scarred and scared a little bit, and we're gonna get into that. But now, some of these books on Spicy Book Talk aren't too bad. Like, there's some steamy scenes here and there, but the books we're talking about today are the ones that have been just shoved into my face, and that focus less on any sort of plot and just more about getting down and dirty as much as humanly possible in the most unconventional and forbidden ways, if you will. And I just want to talk about why that is and why women are so clearly obsessed with these naughty little page turners. And full disclaimer, this is not meant to shame or offend anybody that enjoys these books. It's your life, not mine. And I, for one, did read the books I'm about to talk about, and I would be lying if I said that I didn't enjoy a little saucy fling here and there, a little saucy fictional fling here and there. So that's just what this video is about. Just getting into it, getting into these books, what they're about, and just really dissecting why that is, you know? But anyway, without further ado, let's get into the first book. And the first saucy book is the granddaddy of modern smut, the big kahuna, 50 Shades of Grey. So E.L. James took her Twilight fan fiction and said, what if Edward wasn't a vampire and instead was a billionaire that had a red room and was into BDSM? And yes, E.L. James, the author of the 50 Shades of Grey series, originally wrote a Twilight fan fiction story titled Master of the Universe, which served as a basis for her later published 50 Shades trilogy. And she posted this fan fiction online under the pseudonym Snow Queen's Ice Dragon, which is fire. And then changed a few names and boom, global phenomenon. And let's be real, this book is basically the gateway drug for 90% of today's smut-obsessed #BookTok community. It's the devil's lettuce of book talk, if you will.
Okay, so we need to talk about the 50 Shades of Grey series.
50 Shades!
It's actually a really funny book. Obviously it's very spicy.
4.5 stars for 50 Shades.
4 out of 5. 4 out of 5! So for anybody that doesn't know this entry-level spicy book, I will read you the synopsis on the back. When literature student Anastasia Steele is drafted to interview the successful young entrepreneur Christian Grey for her campus magazine, she finds him attractive, enigmatic, and intimidating. Convinced their meeting went badly, she tries to put Grey out of her mind, until he happens to turn up at the out-of-town hardware store where she works part-time. Saucy. The unworldly, innocent Anna is shocked to realize she wants this man, and when he warns her to keep her distance, it only makes her more desperate to get close to him. Oh, forbidden love! Unable to resist Anna's quiet beauty, wit, and independent spirit, Grey admits he wants her, but only on his own terms. Shocked yet thrilled by Grey's singular erotic tastes, Anna hesitates. For all the trappings of success, his multinational business, his vast wealth, and his loving adoptive family, Grey is a man tormented by demons and consumed by the need to control. A tortured man. And when the couple embarks on a passionate, physical, and daring affair, Anna learns more about her own dark desires, as well as the Christian Grey hidden away from public scrutiny. Can their relationship transcend physical passion? Will Anna find it in herself to submit to the self-indulgent master? And if she does, will she still love what she finds? Erotic, amusing, and deeply moving, the 50 Shades trilogy is a tale that will obsess you, possess you, and stay with you forever. Isn't that the truth? Because I read this freaking book when I was 14 years old. Oh God, I read it when I was 14 years old. I'm not going to say who gave it to me because they will get in trouble, but somebody gave it to me, and I got in trouble. But anyway, the book goes as such. It kicks off with college senior Anastasia Steele filling in for her friend Kate to interview this ridiculously rich 27-year-old superstar businessman, Christian Grey, for the school paper. And from the start, Anna's just super awkward. She literally face plants in his office. How quirky. And she turns red about 200 more times throughout the book. And Christian seems strangely fascinated by her, and she can't figure out why. Maybe it's just because, I don't know, she's different. And things escalate when Kate insists on a photo shoot and Christian invites Anna for coffee. And that's when we find out he's into the heavy BDSM stuff, and it gets weird, and he wants Anna to sign a contract agreeing to all these strict rules, like how much she works out, what she can eat, and when she can or can't even look him in the fucking eye. Just some super healthy boundaries and such. And oh, and did I mention that Anna's a virgin? You'll find that a lot in most of these books. Like, these people have a hyperfixation with all these women weighing like 80 pounds and clothes just like barely draping over their shoulders, and that they're just all like these pure virgins that like haven't been touched. They're all the same. Like every one of these I've read, they're literally described as all the same, but they're either brunette or they're blonde, and there's no in between. But this doesn't stop her from diving headfirst into a whole new world of riding crops and playrooms. Like genuinely, if you made a drinking game out of every time the author writes wicked grin or bit her lip, you'd pass out by chapter 4. The writing is weak, needless to say. But the bigger issue is Christian's emotionally unavailable control freak vibe, which the book just treats as some like intense smoldering fantasy rather than a giant red flag that it should be. But of course there's a cliffhanger at the end of the book that just makes you want to read the next book, and I get it. Like I totally get it. Like when I read it, I thought it was so good. Like I genuinely laughed out loud sometimes at some of the passages because they were so cringy. But you know, it's that forbidden love. It's that like, oh my gosh, he just wants all of me and he just wants to own me, and that's just like such a, I feel like as a woman, there's just something about that that's like, I don't know what it is, but I understand to a certain degree, you know? But like I said before, it's inspired by Twilight fan fiction, and 50 Shades of Grey somehow makes vampires look like wholesome role models in comparison. And just to, if you haven't read it, I just want to give you some excellent quotes from it. He said such loving things today, but how long will he want to do this without wanting to beat the crap out of me? That's terrible. My inner goddess fist pumps the air above her chaste lounge. My inner goddess stirs from her 5-day sulk. My inner goddess is doing the merengue with some salsa moves. What? And from a very tiny, underused part of my brain, probably located at the base of my medulla oblongata near where my subconscious dwells, comes the thought, he's here to see you. Unbelievable. But it was still a popular book despite it being, you know, kind of poorly written. In 2011, you literally couldn't escape 50 Shades of Grey. No matter if it was a TV show or a book or a movie, someone was talking about it. It managed to capture the cultural spotlight in a way no other erotic romance novel had before. And it sold over 125 million copies. Along with its sequels, it also sparked a trio of films, which are also just, you know, you watch them once, it's probably enough, is all I gotta say about those. So if you haven't read it, you can read it. Just don't expect a deep, healthy relationship story if you do. That's all. But seldom do any of these books have healthy relationships in any way, shape, or form. But let me remind you that this book got a 1 out of 5 chili peppers on the spicy scale, according to a lot of BookTok readers. And I'd honestly, after reading all these other books we're gonna talk about, I'd agree on that. But overall, in my opinion, I'd give it a 1.5 out of 5 unnecessary lip bites, personally. Probably not worth it. But that brings us to our next book, and that is Icebreaker. Icebreaker is the book that turned figure skating and hockey into hashtag BookTok's favorite slow burn love child. And the hype is unfreaking real. I have seen this book everywhere. Literally everywhere. People love it. And I'm like, dude, I like hockey. I mean, I'm from Canada, but my God, like what's the hype about? Also the cover looks like a kid's cover or something. I was confused, to say the least. But this was actually the first book I saw on Spicy Book Talk, if you will, in that community. And I was just like, I got peer pressured. I was like, okay, man, shit, I'll read it, whatever. It looks innocent enough, but it's not. It's not.
But this is my favorite book romance of all time.
The spice in this book is incredible. There's a lot of good girl in this, and I'm not opposed to that.
I read a portion of Icebreaker. Dude, that's what you read with no cover on it in the airplane? Holy cannolis.
So let's read the little blurb synopsis on the back so you get a better idea of what we're dealing with, okay? Anastasia Allen, not to be confused with Anastasia Steele. They love naming girls Anastasia in these books, I swear. Has worked her entire life for a shot at Team USA. It looks like everything is going according to plan when she gets a full scholarship to the University of California, Maple Hills, and lands a place on a competitive figure skating team. Slay. Nothing will stand in her way, not even the captain of the hockey team, Nate Hawkins. That just sounds like a book talk name, my lord. And Nate's focus as the team captain is keeping his team on the ice, which is tricky when a facility mishap means they are forced to share the rink with the figure skating team, including Anastasia, who clearly can't stand him. Oh my god, enemies to lovers. But when Anastasia's skating partner faces an uncertain future, she may have to look to Nate to take her shot. Sparks fly, but Anastasia isn't worried, because she can never like a hockey player, right? I love the backs of these books. They make me so happy. Anyway, I fell for it. I read it, and here are my thoughts. Basically, we've got forced proximity, banter-fueled tension, and the inevitable, we're not supposed to do this, but I'm so into you. And the enemies to lovers trope, if you could even call it that, I guess. But it's just lacking overall in plot for me, and the amount of smut in this book is so unnecessary, and like, based off the cover alone, I wasn't expecting much, but it was a lot. Like 50 Shades, I was like, okay, like it's like maybe more taboo, but they just really piled it in there, and I was shocked, to say the least. But there are moments of actual good writing in it. There were plenty of characters, but maybe too many almost. Like I kind of got confused while reading it, and they also gave nicknames to everybody on top of their names, and I was like, what the f is going on? Also, I can't focus on stuff a lot, so I was just confused sometimes. I had to reread a lot of pages. But I think the only redeeming quality of this book is that the main love story characters actually have decent communication skills, and there's not a lot of that in these types of books. There's always just like simple misunderstanding trope where, you know, somebody says something wrong and then the whole climax happens, and it's like, that could have been so simply avoided. At least in here, they have decent communication, but that's about it for me. It was just, I knew where it was going the whole time. It didn't surprise me. I mean, it shocked me. Some of the scenes are crazy. But some women on TikTok have anointed this as the ultimate sports romance. But it's not just women that are saying this, it's children. children are reading this book. But it doesn't surprise me, given that the cover looks as innocent as fucking Charlotte's Web. Like, I don't understand why or for what purpose this cover looks like that, because it does look like just like a Judy Blume book, but it's quite literally just straight up corn. It's corn. But it has literally been found in the children's sections of libraries. I can't even believe it.
What's your friend reading?
Icebreaker.
And how old is she?
And here are some excerpts for you, just in case you were wondering of what kind of writing I'm talking about. It's obviously not, like, crazy or anything, but it'll just give you a taste of what 10-year-olds are reading. Do I need to get on my knees and beg you, Anastasia? Is that what you want? She shakes her head and laughs. The only time I ever want to see a grown man on his knees is in front of me, Nate, is when his face is between my legs. So no, I don't want you to beg me. The thought of a little kid reading that. And I also became privy to the fact that there's an entire hockey smut masking as children's novels subgenre with unbearably unimaginable titles such as The Score, The Deal, The Mistake, Rookie Move, Wicked Serve, and Pucking Around. That one makes me physically mad, and I love puns, okay? And also Behind the Net, jail. Go to jail. But the list quite literally goes on forever. Like, there's so many of these, like, smut books masking as kids' books kind of thing, and I don't understand. I don't understand. But for that reason alone, the reason being the lack of plot and the lack of self-awareness of having children's book covers, I'm giving this book a 0 out of 5 rancid-smelling hockey skates. Let's move on. And the next book is called Birthday Girl, which also just sounds like super innocent fun, but this one is definitely getting into some questionable, almost illegal waters, okay? It is an age gap romance featuring a teenage girl and her boyfriend's father. A tale as old as time. But this premise has BookTok fangirls gasping and fanning their faces and their fannies. And some say it's taboo, but oh so good. And others say I need brain bleach, and I'm in this category. But again, TikTok has just been eating it up.
Oh, am I attracted to this?
This is one of the best forbidden romance books I have ever read.
Baby, I take back what I said about this being a one-hand book. You gonna need both of your hands free. Oh my God!
And again, let's go over the synopsis or blurb on the back so you know what we're dealing with. He took me in when I had nowhere else to go. He doesn't use me, hurt me, or forget about me. He doesn't treat me like I'm nothing, take me for granted, or make me feel unsafe. The bar's on the floor. He remembers me, laughs with me, and looks at me. He listens to me, protects me, and sees me. I can feel his eyes on me over the breakfast table, and my heart pumps so hard when I hear him pull in the driveway after work. I have to stop this. It can't happen. My sister once told me there are no good men, and if you find one, he's probably unavailable. Only Pike Lawson isn't the unavailable one. I am. Pike. I took her in because I thought I was helping. She'd cook a few meals and clean up a little. It was an easy arrangement. As the days go by, though, it's becoming anything but easy. I have to stop my mind from drifting to her and stop holding my breath every time I bump into her in the house. I can't touch her, and I shouldn't want to. The more I find my path crossing hers, though, the more she's becoming a part of me. But we're not free to give in to this. She's 19. I'm 38. And her boyfriend's father. Unfortunately, they both just moved into my house. 19 and 38, that's a lot, especially when you were just 18 a day ago before you moved into this house. Crazy! Anyway, TikTokers are fawning over this, but basically, Jordan, the 19-year-old, finds herself forced to move in with Cole's father, which is her boyfriend's father, Pike, after she and Cole lose their apartment. And she barely gets by waiting tables at a rundown city bar while Cole, unreliable and more interested in partying than working, abandons his responsibilities, leaving Jordan to cover the household chores they agreed to do in exchange for living at Pike's place, his father's place. And at first glance, the book's blurb promises an intriguing story, but as you progress, it does not live up to its initial allure, let me tell you, in my opinion. And one of the reasons for this is that Jordan Jordan herself, although she's meant to come across as mature and grounded, her behavior often reverts to that of a typical teenager, and sometimes even younger, so it just makes it even that much more creepy that this 38-year-old man is into this teenager. And Cole, her boyfriend, is largely absent from the narrative, and despite eventually turning into like a decent person by the end of the book, there's little organic development leading to that revelation, and his character arc just kind of feels abrupt in the book, and it's like, why? I mean, I get why, but it's just weird. And then Pike, at 38 years old, wants to mend his strained relationship with his son Cole, yet as he gets to know Jordan, he's drawn to her in a way that grows stronger each day, and more so than him building a relationship with his son. And Pike's attractiveness and blend of confidence with his vulnerability make him an engaging figure, though at times his infatuation with Jordan just seems odd with the otherwise mature persona that he's described as having. Like almost animalistic, which again, with the almost 20-year age gap, is just strange. But overall, the novel, it was a page-turner. I enjoyed parts of it, but the forbidden love trope, once again, is just like, it falls flat because it's just like creepy. It's just a bit creepy. Especially when she just reverts back to that like teenager self. It just feels like this guy's taking advantage of her, I guess. And it feels yucky to me personally. Here's a little cringy quote from it though. "I knew you were out there somewhere," I tell her, quirking a sad smile. "The girlfriends, women I dated, Cole's mother. I never wanted to marry anyone because they weren't what I was looking for. I had started to think I had my sights set too high, and you didn't exist." I clasp the back of my neck and run my thumbs down her throat. Ew. "Turns out my dream girl belongs to the one person it would kill me to hurt. My son." Just stop. But this age gap romance probably just feels normal to most spicy book talkers because this is like child's play, pun intended, to a lot of those readers, and it just is what it is, you know? Which is fine. I mean, there's like plenty of tropes, horror movie tropes, you know, spicy book talk tropes or whatever, but maybe let's not collectively pretend that it's normal. In real life, that is. But I totally understand that, oh my god, it's so bad, but it's so right, you know? It feels so right. Because it's fiction. So that's like, who cares really at the end of the day? But real life, be a whole other thing. It'd be on the news maybe. But every time I see a father figure romance, I feel like I need to schedule a therapy session after, you know? But I also can't deny that it can be entertaining. Let's just not make it the blueprint for real life relationships, all right? And with that, I'm gonna give Birthday Girl a generous 2 out of 5 suspiciously shaped candles. Next up, Credence. This is another book by Penelope Douglas. Penelope Douglas wrote the book before Birthday Girl, and she's known for pushing boundaries. But she just took the premise of Birthday Girl, basically, and just threw in an uncle and her 2 cousins and a secluded cabin. What could go wrong? But with the book Credence, we enter a taboo-laced cabin scenario that BookTok calls, oh my god, so messed up. I love it.
Oh girl, I can't even pronounce her name. The main chick in this book. Bitch, I know I'd be desperate sometimes, but her kitty gotta be out of pocket. This bitch is just, she feel it. Her kitty is throbbing for anybody that comes near her.
Thank you, Penelope Douglas, for writing this absolute masterpiece. I lent this book out to a very, very good friend of mine, and you know exactly who you are. She read it, and long story short, she's now pregnant with her 2nd child, so Credence does cause pregnancies, pass it on.
But the synopsis or blurb goes as such. Tiernan de Haas doesn't care about anything anymore. The only child of a film producer and his starlit wife, she's grown up with wealth and privilege, but not love or guidance. Shipped off to boarding schools from an early age, it was still impossible to escape the loneliness and carve out a life of her own. The shadow of her parents' fame followed her everywhere. And when they suddenly passed away, she knows she should be devastated. But has anything really changed? She's always been alone, hasn't she? Jake Vanderberg, pretentious name, her father's stepbrother, which is worth noting, and her only living relative, assumes guardianship of Tiernan, who is still 2 months shy of 18. It's always just as young as you possibly can get, and also a virgin, if I may say so as well, of course. Sent to live with him and his 2 sons, Noah and Caleb, in the mountains of Colorado. Tiernan soon learns that these men now have a say in what she chooses to care and not care about anymore. As the 3 of them take her under their wing, teach her to work and survive in the remote woods far away from the rest of the world, she slowly finds her place among them and is part of them. And she also realizes that the lines blur and rules become easy to break when no one else is watching. One of them has her, the other one wants her, but he's going to keep her. Just crazy. So we got uncle, 2 cousins scenario. We got 3 guys whom of which she's related to. Not by blood, at least. That is where I just draw a concrete freaking laser line in the sand. So Tiernan, the main character of the book, is a traumatized, broken, nepo baby mess when she gets to her uncle's secluded, soon-to-be snowed-in for months, by the way, cabin with her 2 hunky, mysterious male cousins, who are equally as tortured as her in their own ways, of course, aka a recipe for disaster, or partial incest. So the book is kind of a slow burn, but I did appreciate it at the beginning because there wasn't a bunch of, just smut littered through the pages. There actually was a lot of story building at the beginning, almost at least a quarter, almost halfway of the book, which I did appreciate. And her uncle Jake is very nice and obviously, attracted to Tiernan, which is weird, but doesn't do anything about it at first, at least. We just hear his inner monologue because it switches from all the characters at certain points in different chapters. And then we get to her cousin Noah, and he's pretty chill, really nice to her too, obviously also attracted to her, which again is strange. But it doesn't feel weird just yet. It's the moment when we get into the smutty territory where it just it just completely lost it for me, because the first time we get into that territory, it's just a non-consensual cousin gathering of sorts. And the writer tries to make it sound okay, but it's just really fucking not. And the entire way, I just hated that silent, brooding asshole character who was unfortunately named Caleb. And there are moments where we get to know his character more and why he is the way that he is, and he's clearly tortured. But at that point, I just don't care, because there's just no excuse for, graping your cousin or other women. Just no excuse, really. I don't care how you're raised. And I don't like that the author's just but it's okay because he has mommy issues. So, and in reading it more and more, it just kind of got worse and worse for me, because there is consensual scenes, obviously, lots of them, but also lightly not, and with more cousins, if you catch my drift. And then there's just manipulation, and it's all just kind of sad. I just kind of felt the whole time reading the book, because this is a 18-year-old girl, mind you, or just about to be, at least. And she just had both of her parents die, and that was a joint slewer slide, by the way. And of course, she's a virgin, and now she's stuck with 3 horned-up men in a secluded cabin that's snowed in, who are also her family. So it just feels, again, just kind of yucky. There are parts of the book I think a lot of people can relate to, and I understand why people like it to a certain degree, but then it's just too up to even remember those parts for me because of all the other shit that happens. So basically, in my humble opinion, anyone praising this book probably needs to schedule in some bi-weekly therapy appointments, if you catch my drift. And here's some cringy quotes. "I'm good in bed, goddammit. Women leave my room happy. Not like the Boulevard of Broken Dreams that's my father's bed when they realize he only wants sex and not a relationship. Or Skid Row upstairs and it's Caleb's room where women are lucky to leave alive." What? "If a woman claims you, then she'll also do for you what other women do. But if you all are claiming me, you're not doing for me what other men would do." What does that even mean? I had to read that several times to understand. "He leans close to my ear. Have you ever been kissed? I nod on places other than your mouth. Heat pools between my legs. No, Uncle Jake." Oh, God. I'm so sorry. And also, when it says heat pools between her legs, I just think she peed herself. I know that's not the case, but that's what I think of, and it makes me laugh a little bit. Anyway, this is one for the freaky deaky thrill seekers who enjoy crossing the lines fictionally. Do what you want, boo. But I'm gonna rate it a 1 out of 5 questionable family reunions. next and last. So finally, last and certainly least, a true crime psychological analysis deep dive worthy book masking itself as a dark romance novel. 24,690. Sounds like an inmate number, doesn't it? It's 'cause it is. Strap in. Or on. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna do that again.
Ever read a book that makes you feel like a little off for liking it? Like, maybe I need therapy? If you like that kind of thing, I got the book for you.
No, she's not doing this. She's... I wouldn't even call this a dark romance. If you thought Haunting Adeline was bad, do not touch this series. It is pitch black. It has severe trigger warning.
I'm not trying to be dramatic, but what the fuck? And secondarily, who the fuck? Because really, to top that off, why the fuck? And really, to bring it back to my original statement, what the fuck?
So we leave behind the billionaires, hockey players, and step relatives for this gritty, disgusting, heavily illegal captive slave prison romance? What could go wrong? Let us read the synopsis blurb on the back. Buried deep below the everyday life of our society lives an underground world of nightmares, of violence and murder no one dares to speak about. Contracts and laws weave the web of our culture together. Our masters walk amongst us. They can be our friends or the ones to make us disappear forever. Where I once had found peace within my existence, it all ended with the death of my cruel yet caring owner. My world shattered and I was taken back to the one place I had hoped to never see again, the cells of Whitlock, a subterranean fortress for slaves who await their new placement. Now I have no rights. I have no say. My feelings and well-being are meaningless. Escape is impossible, but I have nothing left to lose. To stand any chance of survival, I must give my life as collateral to the highest bidder. This book was rough. This book is a walking, talking trigger warning, okay? If there was a picture beside the word trigger warning, this book cover would be right beside it. All right, I'm just gonna say that right now. I cannot recommend enough to probably not read this book, especially if you're sensitive in any way, shape, or form. But I know in saying, don't touch the wet paint, I know you little freaks are gonna get your grimy hands all over it, but please just let me review it and you can listen to it and I'll save you from reading this fucking... It's a horror novel. I'd say it's a horror novel. I mean, it's in the romance section, but I'd consider it just horror. So if you're into horror, I guess maybe you'd be alright with it. But anyway, I digress. Let's get into it. So we have the main character, who's a sexual slave, 24,690, or also known as Everly. And she is kidnapped from her wealthy family at the ripe age of 10 years old on her birthday. Did I already say that? I don't know. And is auctioned off to the highest bidder in Whitlock, which is just a, like I said before, subterranean slave fortress thing where masters and slaves live. And the story starts with her at 19 years old, now with her current master who has just been murdered. Now, all the masters and slaves live in this giant building and compound in the middle of nowhere, USA. And the masters can quite literally do anything and everything they want to their slaves, whether it's having non-consensual you-know-what, or all the way to cannibalism. You alright? Okay, I'm gonna keep going. You alright? Okay. Anyway, 24,690's master is killed, so she needs a new one now. So in comes Brom, the owner of Whitlock, and of course the tall, handsome, brooding man who's also the main love interest. And may I add, again, he owns this place, so he knows everything that's going on in this place. So he's just a giant evil piece of shit that we're just supposed to be okay with. And also in walks Brom's right-hand man, West, who is an even bigger monster, and also, of course, loves 24,690, and Brom does as well. They both just love her, so it's this just love triangle thing. Frickin' Twilight, frickin' all the things. Credence, same thing. So through the whole book, you're just taken through this horrific roller coaster of torture and non-consensual everything, and the author attempts to make you feel like this Stockholm Syndrome bond 24,690 has with Brom is okay, just because he hasn't beat or tortured her himself. necessarily, but he in fact owns the place where all the other guys beat and torture their people. It just doesn't make sense. Like, I can't forget that. Like, I could see how people read this book and they're like, he's different. He's not like the other ones. He's not eating her like that one master, you know, so he must be great. When he's just not. And obviously they start to fall in love, Brom, the head guy, and 24690, the slave. But West also loves her, and he wants her as his slave once she's up for auction again. So West tries to murder Brom, and it was kind of also really predictable. Like, the plot was poor. Like, I just knew where it was going. Like, I knew exactly how it would end. They thought they were being tricky with it, but they weren't. I won't give it away. I mean, maybe I should. Maybe just, I don't. It doesn't matter. But this book was just quite literally torture smut with like a sprinkle of illegal forbidden love plot, and I need to bathe in bleach after reading it. It's just, I can't really comprehend how people can praise this book at all, and honestly, it kind of just concerns me more than anything. But I'm gonna play devil's advocate and go to the other side of the coin, and I understand that if women and men read and consume these types of books, they just become really desensitized, and it's just kind of natural to keep wanting more and more steamier or like borderline disturbing material to excite you. And it's just a very human characteristic, a characteristic many of us share, either with spicy books, true crime, for example, horror movies, corn sites or whatever. And that's why when I say I don't want to shame people, I really do mean it. This isn't meant to shame anyone, you know? I like some of these books, I'm not gonna lie. Because literally everybody does this kind of thing to a certain degree, whatever your vice is. But I think it's just about having the wherewithal to know when it's beginning to be too much and just not letting it rot your brain and affect your outside life. And for me, the book 24690 was just too much. And again, that's just personally. If it's not too much for you, and if you can go about your day, you know, swinging your cane and tipping off your top hat, cool. Liked it, that's your shit, dude. But I'm personally gonna give it a negative 5 million out of 5 what the actual But that's kind of it for my book review. And again, like, just reiterating, don't care what you read, do what you want. Let me know what you think of the books down below, because I actually would really like to know, and I love hearing the other side of the coin for other people as well, why you enjoy it. I get it's totally human nature to just kind of like love the forbidden stuff and everything. And if you have any book recommendations, let me know down below. I kind of want to do more book reviews. I like having to read. It doesn't necessarily need to be, you know, spicy books, could be any book really. But this was just, you know, trending on TikTok, and I think that a lot of people find it interesting. And I find it interesting. I get it. It's interesting. People are interesting animals, and it just kind of goes along with the whole understanding people and psychology and all that kind of stuff. So that's about it. But keep being you, stay beautiful, and I will see you, beautiful face, in the next video. All right? Bye.